The dust of Matamoros clung to him. OsielCárdenas Guillén was not born into narco-royalty. No silver spoon fed him power. His beginnings were humble, a mechanic's grease, the blue of a police uniform. He learned the streets, he learned the system, he saw the cracks, he saw the rot. Corruption was a language spoken fluently on the border. He listened intently. He learned to speak it himself. This border was a torrent of illicit cash, a river of dollars flowing north and south. Osiel watched it. He craved it. He decided he would not just watch, he would drink from that river. The storm was gathering. OsielCárdenas Guillén did not wait for an invitation. He forced his way into the Gulf Cartel. Juan Garcia Abrego was the capo then, a legend, a phantom. Osiel started low, an enforcer, a gun for hire. He did the dirty work. He proved his worth, not with words but with actions. Brutal, decisive actions. He showed no hesitation. He displayed an unnerving calm in the face of violence. This caught attention. In the cartel, attention could mean promotion, or it could mean a shallow grave. For Osiel it meant opportunity. He was hungry, he was ruthless. He navigated the treacherous internal politics. The ladder to the top of the Gulf Cartel was slick with blood. Matamoros was the jewel, the primary plaza of the cartel, the gateway for tons of cocaine. Osiel craved it deeply. Salvador El Chava Gomez Herrera stood in his way. Gomez was his friend, his compadre, his superior within the cartel organization. This bond meant nothing to Osiel. Loyalty was a chain. He was determined to break free from it. Power was the only master he served. El Chava had to go. The decision was cold, calculated, inevitable. Osiel set his plan in motion. OsielCárdenas Guillén was not satisfied. His power was growing, but it was vulnerable. The traditional enforcers were unreliable, often corrupt, often undisciplined. He needed something new, something terrifyingly effective. He needed an army, an elite force bound only to him. He looked for soldiers, not street thugs, not pistoleros. He sought men with military training, men who understood tactics, discipline, and killing. He found them in the most unlikely of places. The Mexican Army's Special Forces, Los Zetas, were born. Los Zetas were not just another gang of sicarios, they were a paradigm shift. OsielCárdenas Guillén had not merely hired muscle. He had imported a military doctrine into the heart of his criminal enterprise. These were men trained by international forces, experts in counterinsurgency, in intelligence gathering, in psychological warfare. They brought these skills to the cartel. They transformed its operational capabilities. They were a new breed of killer, more disciplined, more lethal, more terrifying than anything seen before. Their arrival signaled a dark evolution. Their training was immediately apparent. They moved like soldiers. They fought like soldiers. The arrival of Los Zetas under Osiel's command sent tremors through Mexico. The very nature of cartel conflict began to morph. It became something darker, more systematic, more terrifying. The Zeta effect was a contagion of extreme violence. They did not just kill, they sought to obliterate, to send messages so gruesome they would paralyze enemies with fear. Beheadings became commonplace. Bodies hung from bridges, messages carved into flesh. This was not just about eliminating rivals. It was about psychological domination. A new chapter in narco-brutality had begun. Other cartels watched in horror, and then, in grim necessity, they began to learn. They saw the effectiveness of Zeta tactics. Initially, Los Zetas were OsielCárdenas Guillén's iron fist. His Praetorian Guard, a group of elite soldiers turned enforcers. Their mission was clear: protect the boss, eliminate his enemies. They were the shield and sword of the Gulf Cartel. Secure the Gulf Cartel's plazas, control the territories with an iron grip. They performed these duties with chilling efficiency. Their military training made them a formidable force. Their loyalty, bought with vast sums of drug money, seemed absolute. The cartel's wealth ensured their unwavering commitment. Osiel had them on a tight leash. or so he believed. He deployed them strategically, using their skills to maintain his dominance, using their military prowess to crush rivals, to expand his empire. They were his key to unrivaled power. They were the ultimate enforcers, the embodiment of fear and control, a terrifying symbol of his power. Their presence alone could instill fear. Their black attire and ruthless tactics became legendary. Stories of their brutality spread far and wide. But Osiel had created something more than just an enforcement wing. He had unknowingly sown the seeds of a powerful entity. He had created a highly capable, highly ambitious organization, one that would eventually seek its own path. Los Zetas, under leaders like Z1 Arturo Guzman de Sena and later Heriberto Lascano El Lasca, began to see their own potential. They recognized their strength and influence. They were not content to merely serve. They were warriors, ready to carve out their own destiny. Their ambitions knew no bounds. OsielCárdenas Guillén's reign was punctuated by acts of shocking violence and brazen defiance. His name became synonymous with terror in Tamaulipas and beyond. One notorious incident etched his audacity into legend. In November 1999, Osiel and his heavily armed convoy confronted two U.S. federal agents, a DEA agent and an FBI agent, in Matamoros. He threatened to kill them. He held them at gunpoint. It was a direct challenge to American law enforcement, a display of his absolute control over his territory. The agents eventually talked their way out, but the message was clear. The noose began to tighten around OsielCárdenas Guillén, the notorious leader of the Gulf Cartel. His brazen acts, his escalating violence, his direct challenge to U.S. agents, all these made him a prime target. The audacity of his crimes knew no bounds, and his reign of terror seemed unstoppable. The Mexican government, under immense pressure from the United States, intensified its efforts. High-level meetings were held, strategies were devised, and resources were allocated to bring him down. The hunt for Osiel became a national priority. Streets were flooded with police checkpoints, and search operations were conducted day and night. He was one of Mexico's most wanted men. His face was plastered on wanted posters, and his name was on every most wanted list, a symbol of the cartel power that defied the state. His influence was a constant reminder of the cartel's grip on the region. His days of ruling openly were numbered. Surveillance tightened, and his every move was watched. The executioner, as some called him, was now the hunted. The tables had turned, and he was on the run. The end came on a March day in 2003, in his stronghold of Matamoros. The city was under siege, and the tension was palpable. A massive military operation cornered him. Soldiers and police worked in unison, leaving no stone unturned. It was not a quiet arrest. The chaos of the scene was a testament to the danger he posed. A fierce gun battle erupted. Bullets flew, and the air was thick with tension. Osiel and his Zeta bodyguards fought desperately, but they were outmatched, overwhelmed. The Kingpin was captured, alive. His capture marked the end of an era of fear. It was a significant blow to the Gulf Cartel. The once formidable organization was now in disarray. A moment of triumph for the authorities. They had succeeded in capturing one of the most dangerous men in Mexico, bringing a sense of justice and relief to the nation. OsielCárdenas Guillén is locked away, far from the borderlands he once ruled. His incarceration, however, has done little to diminish the impact of his reign. The echoes of his actions reverberate through the corridors of power and the streets of Mexico, a testament to the indelible mark he left on the world of organized crime. But his shadow looms long and dark, casting a pall over the nation. The fear he instilled and the methods he employed have become a blueprint for terror. His most significant legacy is not just the Gulf Cartel's temporary dominance or the billions in drug money. It is the systemic change he brought to the underworld, a change that has had far-reaching consequences. It is the creation of Los Zetas and the subsequent militarization of organized crime in Mexico. This changed everything. The Zetas, initially his enforcers, were trained to be ruthless and efficient, transforming the landscape of criminal operations. He opened a Pandora's box of violence, one that could not be easily closed. The brutality unleashed by his actions set a precedent that others would follow, leading to an escalation in violence that continues to this day. The Zetas, his enforcers, eventually broke away. Their departure marked the beginning of a new era of violence as they sought to establish their own dominance. They formed their own, even more savage cartel, plunging Mexico into new depths of horror. The Zetas' methods were even more brutal, their tactics more extreme, pushing the boundaries of what was previously thought possible in the realm of organized crime. The hyper-violence that now characterizes much of Mexico's criminal landscape, the beheadings, the public displays of corpses, the attacks on civilians, the use of military tactics by criminal groups, much of this can be traced back to Osiel and his Zetas. Their influence permeates every level of the criminal hierarchy. He set a new standard for brutality, a standard that other groups felt compelled to meet and exceed. This arms race of violence has led to an ever-increasing cycle of bloodshed and retribution. The fragmentation of cartels, the endless turf wars, the rise of smaller, more predatory gangs. These are the bitter fruits of the seeds he sowed. The power vacuum created by his arrest and the subsequent splintering of his organization led to a chaotic scramble for control. His reign was a catalyst for a more chaotic, more brutal form of organized crime. The ripple effects of his actions are felt far and wide, influencing not just Mexico but the entire region. The Mexican state continues to grapple with the consequences. The government's efforts to combat the cartels have often been met with fierce resistance, leading to a protracted and bloody conflict. Security forces are locked in a perpetual war against an enemy that is often better armed, better trained, and utterly ruthless. The lines between law enforcement and criminal activity have become increasingly blurred. The lines between soldier and criminal, between war and crime, have become dangerously blurred. This blurring has led to a situation where it is often difficult to distinguish between the two, complicating efforts to restore order. This is part of Osiel's enduring stain. His legacy is one of bloodshed and chaos, a dark chapter in the history of Mexico. He demonstrated how to corrupt, how to intimidate, how to fight the state, and how to turn its own weapons against it. His methods have been adopted and refined by those who followed in his footsteps. The challenge he posed to Mexican sovereignty continues to resonate long after his capture, long after his extradition. The struggle to reclaim control from the cartels is ongoing, a testament to the enduring impact of his actions. His story is a dark parable of ambition, of power, of the corrupting influence of the drug trade. It serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when the quest for power is unchecked by morality or law. OsielCárdenas Guillén rose from obscurity to become one of the most feared men in the world. His rise to power was marked by a ruthless determination and a willingness to do whatever it took to achieve his goals, leaving a legacy of violence and corruption that continues to haunt Mexico.